Hello and welcome. This is Social Studies, Voices Across America. I'm Bill Wood.
And I'm Peter Goldsmith.
It's crazy time in American history today, Peter, but we can take a moment to look at something else, a moment to cheer. One of our favorite leisure time activities, sports competition, is coming back. And that's where we're focusing today, the return of the sports world, the issues of marketing sports in a pandemic world, and the question, should we be giving sports teams unfettered access to virus testing while the rest of us stand in line and wait? Peter, this is how we'll launch a new, shorter, reformatted podcast today.
That's fine, Bill. And I know all those things you talked about are important, and I know we should be discussing them, and that's fine. But let me be honest with you, Bill. At 9:30 or 10 o'clock tonight, when I'm really dragging and I can flip on the TV and see some Major League Baseball, and tomorrow night we're going to start seeing Thursday night NBA basketball. We've got some soccer. I'm in heaven, Bill.
Yeah, especially if the Yankees are playing, I bet. Huh?
Well, my Yankees haven't played because of this pandemic, but they'll be fine. They'll catch up. But yeah, I think this is very important for a lot of reasons, Bill. Number one, sports is a big deal in this country. As you know, and as I know, we're both sports fans. We've been sports fans for years. We've discussed it in years past when we were doing other stuff. Not only is it important to us to take our minds off this total madness we're going through right now. Hopefully that ends before
Alien DNA.
Yeah, alien DNA. Yeah, you tell me about that one. But you know what? This is big business, Bill. All the people around there, all the people who make their living from sports, all the people who are out there working their tails off to pay bills, to pay their mortgages and their rents and their food for their children and families and so forth. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing we're getting sports back. And like I say, it's a heck of a nice thing to be able to sit back and watch your favorite team either win or lose, not have to hear about all this crap all the time.
And you're exactly right. I knew some people in Los Angeles, one guy in particular, who worked at Dodger Stadium. That was that was one of his jobs. He had 3 or 4 jobs, but he was looking for this summer when the Dodgers were playing and concerts and so forth, because he'd get $8, $9, $10 an hour, depending on the event, to work at Dodger Stadium. And that was one of his better jobs. Yes, it's more than just the players and their collective bargaining agreements with the owners. Baseball is notorious for having a bad relationship between the players and the owners, but it has to do with our culture. Our culture is so tied into leisure time activities, and sports leads the way in that, no matter what it is, whether it's spectator sports or participant sports, golf, tennis, swimming, biking, baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is, that's a part of the American culture, and it's important that it have some success because a lot of people are dependent on it in our economy.
I'll tell you something else that's very interesting, and it's a story that was in the papers a while back, and I'm sure you saw it. You know, we've got a lot of social unrest in the country now, and I think a lot of it is really going to make things different and much, much better. And I think it's raising consciousness of a lot of people, almost all of us. There's an interesting thing which happened about 3 weeks ago. Maya Moore, perhaps the best women's basketball player on the planet today, decided not to play and to pursue avenues of social justice. So she gave up a career, a very, very positive and affluent career, and worked to get an innocent man free from prison. The man was freed. And, you know, besides sports being something for us to watch, I think we're realizing athletes are people who have a right to say things, who have a right to help us change, and who have a platform to say it. And it could be very useful to us and the rest of the country.
Let's switch to the issue of marketing sports in a pandemic world. It's different now when you don't have fans in the stands and you don't have players that have to watch where they're going or what they're doing, or they can't travel from city to city like they used to.
Let me give you some stuff, and then we'll talk about the Miami Marlins, what happened with the Marlins. Most everybody knows that by now. I think the number was 17 with the virus.
Yeah.
Their week has been canceled. They're not going to play till next week. But let me give you some numbers so you understand the weight of this situation, okay? An average NFL ticket is $151. You want to take your wife and 2 kids to a football game? You better have $600 in your pocket. An average NBA ticket is $100. An average Major League Baseball ticket is $45. Okay. So you're talking about a lot of money that is being lost. So how do you market and make up for that? And I think part of the reason that our major sports are back is because of that marketing dollar. I know we need it. I know we like it, but it's marketing dollars. Think about the NBA playing in the bubble. National Hockey League is going to play in a semi-bubble, 2 different bubbles. I think Toronto and someplace on the west coast of Canada, Edmonton, maybe the other ones, where the NFL is not, but Major League Baseball is not. And think about what this represents. How do you market your dollars when you don't know what's happening on the next day?
That's, Peter, that's so true. When you were giving those numbers, my daughter and I used to try to take my granddaughter to at least 1 or 2 Dodger games a year on a Friday night when they had fireworks, especially. But we would go $50 to park the car to get into the parking lot, the tickets, and we were just sitting between the third base and the foul pole, and we were like $150 in per person by the time we parked, before we stood in line to buy dogs, Dodger dogs, and drinks and so forth. So yes, there's a lot of money that's being spent, a lot of money that's being used. So marketing goes on 2 sides of this thing, and especially now when so many people. The unemployment now is like 20 million people are unemployed.
More.
And, how do you, some of those people would be going to some of those games if they had their paychecks. So the marketing is going to be so critical, so crucial. Maybe it's good that they don't have fans in the stands, because there wouldn't be fans in the stands, and that might look bad on the team itself.
Well, Bill, you know what? I think we're in a new world now. Many, many people are working from home now, and they're going to continue working from home when this goes away. Many corporations are not going to do what they used to do. And I think sports became a corporate entity. What I mean by that is, I know that Yankee Stadium has a certain number of tickets, which are $2,500 a ticket per game. Okay. So you can take your girlfriend to the game and spend $5,000. Or you can take your girlfriend to Bermuda for a week. So this sports now, because of the amount of money being generated, the average man or woman has a very difficult time going to a sporting event. And I think people are going to get used to that now and understand, hey, let's redevelop this idea. Really, should sports be all pay-per-view now? Because once the players get used to playing without fans in the stands, they're used to it. Doesn't matter anymore. I know now it's weird, and Dodgers have cardboard cutouts. You can buy, that's another marketing tool. You can buy a cardboard cutout, put your picture on it, keep it in the stands. And as far as the sound, they're using the sound from the video games.
Yeah.
So it's a different world. We have a new normal now that we never had before. And I think once we get used to it, there'll be changes.
Yes. Maybe they'll build sound stages in Hollywood with green screens, and the teams could play on this green screen environment, and the game could be put in any stadium in the world. You could have the World Series played in the bird's nest in China, in Beijing.
Right.
So, yeah, anything is possible nowadays with computer-generated imaging and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, a question: should we be giving sports teams full fettered access to virus testing while the rest of us stand in line and wait? Personally, I question this. I don't want to say that I'm against it, but I question this. Basketball, the NBA has had 0 positives in their testing. They're tested once or twice a day, and they get these results back within hours. The NHL has 0 positives. They're both in a bubble, but to have all of these tests that they get the results back immediately. And there are people that are waiting for a week or so to get the results of their tests, and they could actually be positive and work through the virus by the time they found out that they were positive. I think that's a real question that should be asked. Should people be able to buy with the money to buy all the access to the medical research and the medical testing, and leave the general public hanging high and dry? I'm kind of against that.
Well, you can be against it all you want, Bill, but the truth of the matter is the dollar rules.
Yes.
And sports is, and you and I have said this before many times, it's entertainment. And people will pay for entertainment. And people who have money can get what they want to get. And people who don't have money need to wait in line. I think it's as simple and clear cut as that. Every professional team in any sport is worth at least a few $100 million, and most of them are worth over $1 billion. So with that kind of money being laid out, you and I both know that to add on a few $100,000 in medical testing is minuscule. And that's what's going on. God forbid a major athlete should get stricken with the virus. What would happen?
Well, we saw what happened when the guy from the Utah Jazz,
Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert, when he was tested positive back in March, they shut the whole NBA down, and within days, the entire sports world was shut down.
Correct.
One guy did
Correct.
all of that. So now the difference is that now we have 17 people on the Miami Marlins, a no good team, where the Utah Jazz was a playoff team. Maybe that has something to do with it. But they just set the Marlins aside and said, you go do what you have to do. We'll be here when you come back. To me, just the hypocrisy of the whole thing, when you have people that are dying who can't get tests, even though they were promised it by the administration. They can't get tests. They can't get the results of the tests that they take. But these athletes, can buy their way. Maybe it would be different, Peter, if they could if there was enough resources to handle everything. If there were enough resources for the players to buy and set that aside, and then the people could still go. But now people are waiting a week, 2 weeks to get the results of their test. And, the resources aren't enough. And I just am against money buying complete unfettered access to everything. I'm against
that. Yeah. And in this case, money buys health. And that's a fact of life. That's
so dangerous.
It is dangerous. And these people are thought of as quote unquote essential workers because we need our sports back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it's the old,
like we mentioned earlier, they generate income. They generate income for people.
Exactly. It's the old argument we've had for years. Who is essential other than nurses and doctors and first. We know that. That's another category entirely. Those people are on their own. What they do, the marvelous work they do. But who else? I mean, what are you going to do? So all this stuff is difficult, and it's first time. No one in the world's ever dealt with this stuff before. In the last pandemic with 1918, everyone talks, well, there was no National Basketball League. Baseball was playing in a cornfield in Iowa.
And the idea of being in a bubble someplace in Orlando, if there was an Orlando.
And social media, like telling you every single thing that you either need or can know. We're in uncharted waters now. I don't have anything to say. As I said to you before, of course it's unfair, no question. Rich and poor has always been a disparity, and in my opinion, always will be a disparity, and that's what we're going to have to live through. But for me, I'm glad I can watch my baseball late at night when I'm done.
And your
That's all I can tell you.
Your Giants and my Browns when the NFL
let's
starts.
not go. We're having a good day, Bill. Let's not go. Let's not go there.
Training camps are about to open as we're taping this. Training camps are about to open. The NFL is not going to be in a bubble. They are much closer, sweat and spit and everything is flying around. So if they get through the season not being in a bubble, being as violent and as close, there's no social distancing in the NFL.
No, it would be pretty great if there were. It'd be an interesting game, wouldn't it?
Especially if the Browns can get some social distancing and their offensive receivers.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what, Bill? We'll have to wait on that. I lost a bet last year. We'll make another bet this year.
All right, Peter, it's great to have this to get a little quicker, and I think this might be a good thing. So until we meet each other again, take care of each other and respect each other.
Peace.
You can get this podcast. You can tell someone else about this podcast. It's available through YouTube, through iTunes, and through Google Play. Let's hear from you. Let us know what you think so that we can be in community with you. And there is a way to contact us. That's at peter@agnetuslife.com or bill@agnetuslife.com. That's our email addresses. Let's hear from you. Let's open up the forum.